All right, and we are live. Hey, what is up, YouTube boxing family? It is K-Rad here. I am back with another good live stream for y'all today. I just wanted to say, what a good night of fights. Very good fight itself, and I don't know. I think honestly, it was definitely definitely worth seeing what we had to see and it was pretty decent. But I'm gonna come out here and just talk about the fights that I saw, and for those of you that that want to come in and chill and talk about this past weekend's fights. I got a lot to talk about, so yeah, yeah, come on through if you guys want to. So salute to everybody that has came through. And I guess I'll start off with the fights that weren't broadcasted. Like, shout out to fighters like Corey Marksman. Shout out to, man, who else fought? That other Dominican kid, Alexi De La Cruz. Whole bunch of fights that happened over down in Florida at the Caribe Royale down in Orlando. Definitely huge shout out to a lot of those fighters. And shout out to Brianna Rios. She got her, consecutive victory again over Unique Harris in the rematch. So I believe she's now 3-0 as of now. So congratulations to her, and congratulations to Corey and the other fighters that are like a part of that Nelson Rodriguez stable. Obviously, Corey doesn't get trained by Nelson, but he trains at that gym to get the sparring. But Corey Marksman, he got his I want to say his third victory, and then Alexi De La Cruz, he's that Dominican black fighter. He got his very first win against a Puerto Rican undefeated fighter at 126. So he beat him. That was like a first round or second round TKO. Same thing with Corey. Corey just dominated that guy. But that was a good fight. Great night of fights. Very very super competitive. And I have to say it was very fun. Um, what I like to say out of the Joseph Adorno and Iron Alvarez fight, I'm not sure like if that fight ever had like a last minute replacement, but pretty sure it didn't. And I'm pretty sure maybe like Mikey Garcia versus Julio Rosa probably took over, but still, that was a good night of fights, man. Definitely worth the night to sit back, relax, yeah, and enjoy the scenery. I could have bought the Fight.tv. I guess like Fight itself because it was on Fight.tv, but knowing how Fight.tv is, they're pretty clunky with like their Wi-Fi, and I just didn't want to buy the fight because if Joseph Adorno wasn't going to be having his headline main event, then that wasn't worth my time and efforts to buy that fight anyway. So um I just held that off. But as far as the people that have actually went to the fight, guys like Nestor Bravo, Christopher Pitufo Diaz, all those guys, they had a good time down there, and I wish I was there, but sadly I wasn't able to. But I will say from Friday night's fights down in Plant City, Florida, Mark Reyes Jr. Unfortunately, he lost, but that was a good fight that he had with his opponent, Jonathan Ennis. And who else fought in that card? The Vol brothers, Dominic and Marcus Vol. Great fights for them. They had their good little victories. They had knockout victories in their fights. So very good fights. I enjoyed that. I have to say, like that was a pretty good card. As far as for what I recorded or put on live stream. So I was happy for anybody that pulled up and just just came through to watch the fights, and I'll keep that on there for anybody that wants to catch up on the replay. But great night of fights, had lots of fun, but let's get on with the main fights that were on the mainstream. I'm not gonna talk about Lawrence Okali. He obviously won. Against that Polish dude. So I don't see that to be worth a talk to bring onto the channel. But we'll talk about Josh Taylor, and then we'll talk about the Colbert versus Hector Garcia card. Um, so yeah, let's get right to it. We'll just get it out the way with the Josh Taylor fight card. Obviously, you guys know what I have to say. I thought Josh Taylor got a robbery decision over Mr. Whatchamacallit, Jack Catterall. That was a good fight while it lasted, but Jack Catterall arguably beat the living shit out of Josh Taylor. And Josh Taylor got embarrassed in his hometown in Scotland. And I don't understand why that decision was, made out to him because, he didn't even feel like he even won the fight himself. And Jack Catterall knew that, he should have been the newly crowned undisputed junior welterweight world champion. So yeah, that's terrible, and I hope he's doing okay. But I just wanted to come out and say that because I wasn't able to chime in on most of that shit. But yeah, that was the sad news with that. And as far as the other fights that had happened, shout out to Robesi Ramirez. He had a good co-main event clash with Eric Donovan. Not a good fighter. I never thought of him as a good fighter. He's a 36-year-old Irish bum, to say the least, because he got knocked out by Zelfa Barrett, a complete nobody. But ever since then, nah, he hasn't been doing anything special. And he's been out the ring since September, so he just waits like what 3 to 5 months later just to get knocked out. Or actually, no, he's been out the ring since. Oh wait, actually, no. Yeah, that's right. He's actually been out the ring for 5 months. I was thinking he's been out the ring for well over a year, but he's been out the ring for almost half a year. So not bad, but still, he got his ass knocked out, and you know, Robesi Ramirez did what he had to do. So congratulations to him. That's a great victory. Obviously, it just gives you more traction as a fighter. And I would like to see Robesi Ramirez be in the ring with some good top level opposition names because he is getting up there in age, but I don't think that's going to affect him. He's definitely on his way to bigger and better things. So I mean, at the featherweight division, you got guys like Mauricio Lara, uh, Kiko Martinez. I think he could beat him. Luis Alberto Lopez is a very difficult fight. I'd like to see him and Abraham Nova fight each other, but I think they're going to see each other at the world title level. I wouldn't mind Christopher Pitufo Diaz. That would be a great, amazing fight. And I don't know, man. I think honestly, like he should probably. I don't know. I wouldn't mind a Brian Chevalier fight. That'll be a good fight, or Cobia Breedy, or Oscar Escandon. That's a good fight. And I know there's that Mexican dude, Isaac Avalar. I actually want to mind to see that fight. I think Isaac Avalar is still a good, you know, um, a good, tough, brawlic opponent that's going to give you pressure and give you a very difficult fight. So I think he has a lot of growing to do in his career. So him fighting, Robesi Ramirez will be a good 50-50 matchup, whoever wins that. Raymond Ford, I actually want to mind that fight. I think that's a great fight to have. Dennis Contreras, amazing fight. He's not a pushover. He can definitely brawl. Or Cesar Juarez, good fight as well. Obviously, he lost to Dennis Contreras back in August of 2021. So yeah, I say for Robesi Ramirez, he can definitely build up his wins pretty fast. I mean, this is like whatchamacallit, the third or actually the very first fight that he's been fighting out of 2022. So I say he needs to stay active all year round, so that way he can get himself into the world title rankings. But I think, I don't think he's that far away from getting there. So I think he'll very well get up there, and he'll do what he has to do, and that'll be very good for him. Hey, what's up, Mister Omega Red? Salute to you. Thank you for coming through. I appreciate you. But yeah, as far as everything else goes, I think Robesi, he's a good fighter. Um, I wouldn't mind to see him and Capu Gonzalez fight each other, again in the future. But I think his career is just only getting better, and it's definitely bringing himself to a higher level to where he needs to be. But yeah, that was a good co-main event showing from Robesi Ramirez. All the other fights are just absolutely garbage. I never really cared about them. Um, I liked watching that female fight, the Ebony Jones and Effie Cathalopi, but I actually thought Ebony won that, and I think you know obviously if they rematch, that should happen as soon as possible. But yeah, that was a good fight, and as far as the main event goes, I thought Jack Catterall, he won the fight, and he beat the living crap out of Josh. Josh looked like absolute dog water, and I just think like where he's at right now in his career, I don't think Josh Taylor is going to do any better coming into 147, because the problem with Taylor is that he's very very vulnerable to the left hook. And I mean, I say that very honest, because knowing that I'm a southpaw, knowing that I'm a southpaw myself, it's very easy to tell where Josh Taylor, lacks, in his department of fighting. And Josh Taylor has proven that he cannot fight on the inside, and he's always vulnerable to that left hook. And I think that's going to be his biggest weakness coming into the welterweight division. Because if you're facing another guy like Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford, you're going to get your ass knocked the fuck out. Like, I'm just keeping it real. Like, Terrence Crawford can easily catch those mistakes from a mile away, and you're going to get your ass knocked the fuck out. I don't care what anybody has to say, but Josh Taylor is not that type of fighter where he's going to correct those mistakes on time. Salute to you, Teach. Thank you for coming through. Appreciate you. But yeah, just by looking at his performance, I thought Josh Taylor did horrible. I thought he looked like absolute dog shit. That was like the worst performance that I've ever seen from him, and I just found that really weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think that Josh Taylor going up to 147, he's going to get knocked out by anybody that is just as technically gifted as him, but more fundamentally dangerous than him. And I think that the toughest matchups that Taylor is going to definitely be in there with will be a guy like Terrence Crawford, Jerron Boots Ennis. I probably even say Virgil Ortiz would knock him out. I think Speedy Rashidi Ellis would knock him out. I think guys like maybe, I mean, if we're gonna go to guys that have like zero power at the welterweight division, but they can box very well, I'd probably say Michael Fox can easily beat him. As crazy as I am for saying that, but I just think Michael Fox, from a stylistic point of view, Josh Taylor, he can't outbox a pure boxer, but he knows how to be dirty in the ring. So therefore, if he's going to do that against somebody that is just as physically gifted, if not stronger than him, then I think what's going to happen is that he's going to think like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do the same thing that I did back at 140 to all the guys at 147. No, that's not going to work like that. If you do that to a guy like, let's just say Jerron Ennis. Jerron Ennis is going to push you back. He's going to hit you with some mean shit that you didn't see coming. And then, boom, you're going to get knocked out. I don't think Josh Taylor has proven himself to be that good of a fighter. because every time when you see him get put up, against somebody with physical pressure, he shells up, similar to that of a, well, I don't even want to say like a guy like Ryan Garcia, but if we're gonna put him next to any other UK fighter, it's almost similar to Ricky Hatton in a way, because Ricky Hatton has gone through that same shade, but just in a different light. Because with Ricky Hatton's case, every time when he mixes it up with somebody, he gets hit with some mean shit, and then he usually gets rocked or he gets knocked out. Teach asks, do you think Josh would lose to all the up and coming 140 pounders? Um, yeah, I think so. I think Josh Taylor, he's food at 140s and 147, just simply because that the levels of competition are getting more dangerous, and I think he understands that he's more vulnerable to guys that won't back down to his dirty tactics, and I think guys like Gary Antoine Russell, Subriel Matias, and I probably even say maybe guys like Brandon Lee can definitely knock him out. It's just that would Josh Taylor, get away with all the dirty tactics that he thinks he can get away with at 147? And just by looking at how he fought against Jack Catterall this past weekend, just shows to me that Josh Taylor, he doesn't have all these great skills, and it seems like he's on the decline. I don't think Josh Taylor is getting any better. I think he's fading, and I think his drive to become to become a great fighter is coming to a very quick end. But as far as the 140 competition, I think the competition is way just way too dangerous for Josh Taylor, and I think it's time for him to move up anyway, because if you stay at 140, guys like Gary Antoine, Subriel Matias, once they become mandatories, he could very well have a career-ending fight, that's going to take him down very quickly. Teach said, I think if he's good at 140 and 147, I'd rather see him beaten at 47. Same conclusion, different weight class. It gives the viewers a new look. I prefer him to move up. Yeah. Definitely. I just think that just based off of like what I'm seeing right now, I just think that Josh Taylor knows, what's going to happen, and I just think that just how he looks like right now, he's going to get knocked out by somebody that's going to just know, what he's going to do, coming into that fighting situation. And yeah, I guess like you said, food instead of good. Or yeah, I got that. But yeah, but I do think he's food at 147. I don't think he's getting any better. I think Josh Taylor understands his flaws as a fighter, and he's not going to get any better coming up to 147. See, now some people want to try to tell me, man, quit capping, blah blah blah. Josh Taylor, he's going to be good. He could beat guys at 147 like Virgil Ortiz or Keith Thurman, or like some people say guys like Connor Ben, or guys like Rashidi Ellis. But my question is that if he could beat those guys, why isn't Josh Taylor calling out those guys, but he's willing to call out Terrence Crawford? Because it's like, I find it very weird that all these Josh Taylor fans, like obviously minus me being a part of that, is that you guys are easy to jump the gun to support a Terrence Crawford fight, which is extremely dangerous, by the way. But at the same token, you don't want to talk about any other killers that are at 140 or 147. So it's like Josh Taylor fans understand that Josh Taylor is not getting any better, and his skills are still decent, but it's like you think that taking out Terrence Crawford is a better win, and it's a better sell to the public, because at least if he loses to Terrence Crawford, everybody will say, oh, well, he lost to the former undisputed pound for pound number one in the world fighter, versus if he gets his ass beat up by EJ, Rashidi Ellis, Virgil Ortiz, all those killers at 147, that's something that's going to destroy his, imagery as a fighter, because that's what Josh Taylor has shown to the world, is that if he fought like that against Boots or Virgil or any other killer that we already know that's good and made for that division, everyone's going to write him off. And I mean, shout out to Tim Bradley, as much as I don't like you, Mr. Sambo Bradley, but he made a good point from the fight. He said Josh Taylor cannot have any more bad nights like this, because if he does have a bad night, again, you're going to get exposed by guys like Terrence Crawford or a guy like Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, anybody that we could think of. You cannot have a bad night against them. But knowing that this is Jack Catterall, in which I call him collateral damage because he is collateral damage, because that's all he does, that man was still whipping Josh Taylor's ass, without using any form of power punching. And I mean, Catterall is not a power puncher, but he's a decent semi boxer. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't really have that much skill. He's very basic. He's very one dimensional. And I found it really weird that Taylor would allow a guy that's a non puncher just to outbox him and then knock him down in the process. And on top of that, he gets a point taken away too. So it's like, I just don't see how Josh Taylor is making his way to 147, any good. And I just find this very shocking, because it's like, everybody, including myself, was thinking Josh Taylor was going to go in there and beat the living crap out of, Jack Catterall. And then everybody will say, okay, well, he's made for 140, and, he's a legit certified. And Jack Catterall, he was a guy that waited 3.5 years or 3 years to be exact, just to get a title shot. And, he got his, ass whipped. So Josh Taylor, should have done that, but he got his ass completely handed to him. And I just find it really crazy how the judges would favor such a robbery for Jack Catterall, as if Josh Taylor knew, he was already losing, the entire fight. Chief said, "I'm not fond of Josh's style with all that length. He chooses to fight on the inside. The two guys at 47 would easily beat him." Yeah, definitely. I just think, just based off of what we've seen from his previous fights, he's not this type of fighter where everyone should just say, "Oh, well, he's not the greatest in the world." No, he's not. Like, Josh Taylor, he's only good for what he could show based off of the political establishment giving him the proper promotion and the proper movement, proper management of his career to get away with these, solidified victories. And I mean, if you take a look at his box rec or his resume, Josh Taylor has only fought the top guys leading from, I'll probably say, let's just start with O'Hara Davies. A guy that was a absolute nobody, but I will say that, back in this time frame, back in 2017, O'Hara Davies was supposed to be the man coming out of the UK to dominate 140. But then when him and Taylor saw each other, that's when Taylor went out of his way and knocked him out. And that was a good victory. And then after that, he went on to beat Miguel Vasquez. That was that Mexican fighter that that wasn't that good of a fighter to begin with. But I mean, he was an absolute bum, actually. Especially even in that time frame. But after that, he went on to face Winston Campos. That's the same common opponent that had fought Josh Kelly, that later got his ass knocked out by David Avanesian. And then after that, he went on to face Victor Postal for the WBC super lightweight title, placement, I guess. And then after that, Ryan Martin, and then leading to Ivan Baranchyk, and then Regis Prograis, which that was a good solidifying victory, but many would say Regis Prograis won that fight because Regis, he actually landed the more effective, deadlier shots that gave Josh Taylor a much harder fight to figure out. So after that, he then made a little title defense, or he made like a very quick title defense against Kong Song, some Taiwanese fighter that that didn't deserve to be in there in the first place. He knocked him out in one round, and then after that, he unified with Jose Ramirez. That following next year later, back in May, for undisputed, and then he basically chills out for the rest of the year, and then comes back in February to defend it. So, I mean, the resume itself isn't really that good. It's more like he was moved a certain path to keep himself, politically politically strategize to just go for a certain belt, and then he could go after the least amount of risk that could get him to the undisputed crown. But either way, Josh Taylor, I will credit him for beating whoever was in front of him to get the titles. But at this time frame, this is like the easiest way for him to get the undisputed, because he basically went through the IBF route to beat up Ivan Baranchyk, and then he faced Regis Prograis in the UK because he knew if he had fought him in America, that whole judges judging definitely would have been a lot different in the United States, instead of having it in the UK. And then after that, he went, I think, back to the UK to beat up Kong Song. And then after that, he went back to America to beat up Jose Ramirez. And then he went back to the UK to defend, his title. So, I mean, it's proper political management that Top Rank has done for him. But I will say his resume isn't really that impressive, and I wasn't really expecting him to, actually be the best fighter out there. And I mean, from what he showed to me from the Jack Catterall performance, is just that you're a good, decent fighter, but you're a very dirty fighter in the process. So I don't see Josh Taylor lasting long at 47. But if it's ever to be possible for him to get any victories, I would probably just say he'll only probably come very, very slightly close to beating Keith Thurman, and then maybe he can, maybe he could face a guy like Danny Garcia or Connor Benn. I just think that's his least probable, amount of victories that he can get at 147, because don't forget, like Josh Taylor, he doesn't really have that much power to really display, but it's like he doesn't have, how should I say, like one shot knockout power, because, when you move up to 147, you have to have power and you have to have a chin. So I think what's going to happen is just that Josh Taylor, he's going to be careful fighting who he wants to fight coming up to 147. But I mean, if he just goes ahead and fights Terrence Crawford right away, which I don't see that fight happening, I actually see that fight not happening at all, and I think he's going to probably have to end up facing Virgil or Jaron Ennis. So I probably would say Josh Taylor would probably have like a more higher probability fighting maybe somebody out of the top 10 rather than the top 3 or top 5. But that's pretty much it for that fight card. Let me move forward with the other fight card to talk about the Chris Colbert fight card itself. And then after that, I'm going to get up out of here. But yeah, let's talk about these fights. Oh, actually, the undercards were actually like a part of this. Angel Barrientos, he fought. Justin Cardona, Mikey Scala. Oh, Claudio Moreira, he fought too. And he got a majority decision victory. So congratulations. But yeah, let's just talk about the co-main and the main event. I don't really care about Jerwin Anjakas. I don't think he's that good of a fighter. But yeah, congrats to Fernando Martinez. Nothing special out of him, but decent fight. Let's talk about the Gary Antoine Russell fight. See now, I think Gary Antoine Russell, he's a damn good fighter, and he's gonna have a very good future uh, coming into the world title level at 140. But the problem that I had with him was that Gary Antoine Russell basically left himself wide open for Victor Postal to counter jab him. And the thing about Gary Antoine Russell is that he's a great pressure inside fighter, but the problem is that his defense is absolutely garbage. His defense is so bad to the point where he really needs to work on it because Victor Postal was basically hitting him, with like the same exact shots, and that that fight just made it seem like as if Gary Antoine Russell just allowed him to to just constantly hit him, and he never made any proper adjustments to actually get away from those same shots that he was taking. But he still did a good he still did a good job, but I just disagreed with what the referee TKO Savage. I just wanted to see how Gary Antoine would try to finish Victor Postal if he was actually going to get knocked out. But that referee stoppage didn't make any sense to me, and I disagreed with that. Teach said, I enjoyed the German Martinez fight. I just don't know how Martinez had all that energy. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I just thought that Jerwin, he just left himself wide open too many times to get hit, and Martinez just got so many opportunities to break him down, on the inside. And I think Jerwin just basically wasted a ton of his shots to the point where he was gassed out, and Martinez, took advantage of it while he could, and he was able to take him down. But I mean, honestly, if there's any suspicion that Martinez could have cheated in that fight, then I'll definitely, be the first one to, call it out. But from the looks of it, from my own, perspective, I thought Martinez just had more dog in him that actually gave him the opportunity to beat up Jerwin more. And I mean, Antrakas, he had, the better boxing ability, but he just never used it. And Martinez, he just took advantage of anything that Jerwin, showed as a weakness, and he just basically exposed Jerwin to the punch. So, I mean, Martinez did what he had to do, but at the end of the day, Jerwin Anjakas should have been the victor by making that fight a lot easier than it had to been. So, not a good performance by Jerwin. I mean, credit to him. He had 9 title defenses, which is actually great. But at the same token, as a 9-time title defense world champion, you should know that at the world championship level, you need to have defense. You can't come into a world championship fight with no damn defense, because if you think that, all you can do is just go in there and just knock people out, that's not how boxing works. Boxing is a fundamental and technically driven sound sport. So, if you don't have those tools, in a boxing fight, you're going to get your ass knocked out. But yeah, I just figured that I put that out there because it's like I just find it so weird that Jerwin had 9 title defenses, but yet you never showed and displayed any of your actual talents to the world, and you let some unknown Argentinian guy just beat the living shit out of you for 12 rounds straight. But yeah, T said, true, Jerwin's defense is bad. Yeah, like, I'm just not gonna, give any credit to Jerwin because he didn't really, earn, my respect to him because he didn't create enough separation in the fight to give himself any proper means to actually, be the victor in that fight. And I mean, Martinez wasn't good, Martinez wasn't any better either. It's just that Martinez left himself wide open for so many opportunities that Jerwin never took advantage of. And I thought Jerwin, he had a good amount of pop in his shots to actually hurt Martinez, but he didn't use any proper defense. He didn't use any proper footwork, and and his timing was absolutely terrible. Just coming in to shoot his jab, and he just gave Martinez so many opportunities to just go in there and just pound on him. But I mean, that's what happens, when you come in, so overconfident in a world title fight, and you think that that the judges are going to favor you, but that just doesn't work all the time unless you're politically favored. But I thought Jerwin, he could have done better, man. Jerwin, Jerwin had the better boxing ability. He decided not to use it, but hopefully in the rematch, if there is one, because I believe there is a rematch clause, Jerwin should take advantage of that, and he should definitely beat the crap out of fucking Martinez, man, because you know the way he fought that night, he gets easily knocked out by Jesse Rodriguez and all the other champions standing in the way, at 115, because it's like that type of performance just gets you knocked out 9 times out of 10. But let's talk about the rest of the fights with Gary Antoine and Postal. I thought Gary Antoine did his thing, but that defense just needs to be fixed up, man. He needs to start, being more intelligent by working shots downstairs and upstairs. And I thought he made himself look way too predictable against Victor Postal, giving Postal many opportunities to just pull up counter and just throw those mean ass uppercuts at Gary Antoine. But Gary Antoine did what he had to do. He started landing hard shots to the body, but he wasn't making it look like, how should I say, um uh, um like basically he didn't make the shots look unpredictable enough for Victor Postal to actually be worried about what shot was coming after him. If Victor Postal just had the better timing off of his jab, and he had the better defensive reads to mechanize and basically limit the advantages that Gary Antoine Russell had over him. But as far as the fight itself went, I thought Gary Antoine, he was the better pressure fighter. But Victor Postal showed that if you outbox Gary Antoine Russell, he doesn't have his power anymore, and that takes him away out of his element to make himself more dangerous, because he needs you to be stationary for him to actually land his shots more. And from what he showed to me in that fight is just that he needs to be better by not making himself look predictable in a fight. Because if he does that with somebody like, let's just say, a Subriel Matias, or maybe Jose Zapata, or maybe a guy like, I don't think he would probably cause any problems, but let's just say if he had, that type of threat to him, maybe a guy like Montana Love, or maybe a guy like Jose Ramirez if he's still fighting. I don't know, just just somebody that has actual power that could easily hard counter you and just hit you, in that particular exchange. That's something that I'm worried about for Mr. Gary Antoine Russell, where he leaves himself wide open to get hit, and he continues to be having these unnecessary exchanges because he has too much dog and too much pride in his will to try to go toe to toe with you versus actually boxing and actually sticking to the fundamentals to actually wait for your turn to land that good shot and then mix it up with whatever combinations that you want. But yeah, I mean, I thought Gary Antoine did he did what he had to do. It's just that he needed to execute his shots a lot better to be more educated off of his punches. Teach said, I wanted him to go to the later rounds. I couldn't properly gauge from his other fights since they were so short. He fought an experienced guy in Postal. Yeah, I mean, look, the Victor Postal fight is still a very good win. You beat a guy that's never been stopped, but at the same token, you know, I just don't understand why the referee would try to basically get in the way to to interrupt a potential stoppage of a victory for Gary Antoine Russell. Because if he was able to stop Victor Postal, then if I'm the referee, I'm gonna let him do it. Let him knock him out, or let him force force Victor Postal's corner to throw in the towel. At least at least that at least that showed to me that Gary Antoine Russell had what it takes to beat up a guy in Victor Postal to actually stop him, versus having the referee to just come in and basically interrupt the entire situation to have Gary Russell's shine taken away from him to actually stop him. So I just thought Gary Antoine Russell, he got robbed out of that potential TKO victory, but it wasn't something that I actually thought actually deserved a certified TKO victory, because um, Gary 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 Antoine Russell did land some hard ass shots to Victor Postal, but it's like Victor Postal wasn't really hurt from that knockdown. It looked like he just got hit with a good punch by Gary Antoine Russell, and that pretty much just made him a little bit stunned, in the fight. But yeah, Teach said I didn't agree with the stoppage at all. I agreed. In my opinion, I thought Postal would have made it out, but I would rather see a real stoppage. Yeah, yeah. I just think from that angle, if you're a referee in that fight, you would rather just basically let the corner, either throw in the towel, or if the fighter's taken like 3 to 4 shots flush to the face, and he's not properly responding to the punches, then I would come in to say, okay, fight's over. Thank you. You won. But it's like he didn't give Gary Antoine Russell the opportunity to knock out Victor Postal, which made zero sense at all, because it's like, look, Gary Antoine Russell wasn't having the best performance, but if you're gonna let a young man shine against a old veteran, let the young man shine. Let the young fighter beat up the old fighter, like how any other boxing match would go down. If the young fighter has the ability to knock out the old fighter, let the young fighter do it. Don't try to interrupt a stoppage that didn't deserve a fair stoppage at all, and try to make it seem like that stoppage was justified, because that's the same bullshit that they play onto female boxing, where like you see some of these females that take good shots, but if the one girl doesn't have any power at all, and let's just say she's landing like a flurry of punches, but the other lady, she's coming back to hit her, like a couple times, and but the referee just wants to just stop it, for whatever reason, because they think that women have weaker brains compared to men, and they'll they're gonna get hurt quicker. That's that's basically what happened with Gary Antoine and Victor Postal. The referee just wanted to try to basically waste a perfect opportunity for Gary Antoine to actually knock out Victor Postal, and it just didn't make any sense, because it's like, okay, the fight was still there, and I think there was only like less than 30 seconds left, and it's like Gary Antoine Russell could have easily had the opportunity to actually stop Victor Postal, but that's pretty much it with that. Congratulations to Gary Antoine Russell, and I hope he continues to do bigger and better things. But as far as who he should fight next, I'd like to see a fight between him and Jose Zepeda, him and Montero Love. I would love that Subriel Matias fight, but I think they should wait until they become champions. And I'd like to see a fight between him and I wouldn't mind I don't know, man. I like to see a Jose Ramirez fight, but I think that fight needs to wait. I think Jose Ramirez would, get a little edge over him, but I actually wouldn't mind that. I think if he's ready to beat him up, go for it. Beat up a guy in Jose Ramirez, or beat up a guy and maybe, man, I don't know, man, because there's so many killers at 140. But I mean, if we really want to see like some real, actual young gun competition, I'm not gonna go with like a guy like Richardson Hitchens. I think he'll kill him. I wouldn't mind a Regis Prograis. Yeah, a Regis Prograis fight. That's a good fight. I wouldn't mind Sandor Martin, Jose Pedraza. That's a Pedraza beats Jose Ramirez. Mario, well, no, not Mario Barrios, but I wouldn't mind a, I don't know, man. Maybe Bakhtir Akhmedov. I think the best fight, if we want to see like two young guns go at it, I like to see Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee versus Gary Antoine Russell. That's a good fight. But I like to see this other Puerto Rican fighter, if he's ever to come back, into the pros. I want to see him and Luis Feliciano. That is a beautiful fight. That's a damn good fight. That's a flame fight. Or Kenneth Sims Jr. That's also a very good fucking fight. Or Darwin Price. That's an amazing fight as well. So, I mean, there's plenty of smoke. All the smoke is here. Alberto Puello, I think he'll beat the shit out of him. Antonio Moran, he'll beat him. Um, just so many guys, man. There's so much, there's so much red meat in this division, and I think there's going to be a lot of killers in this division. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that fight. And to just fully recap on Chris Colbert versus you know Hector Garcia, that was a absolute mockery. I thought Hector Garcia, he wasn't supposed to win this fight, but he just came out blazing hot and he just beat the crap out of Chris Colbert. And Chris Colbert looked like he was afraid the entire fight, because his power wasn't, his power wasn't committing all the way through against Hector. And it was absolutely, just terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, just by looking at the fight itself, it just looked like Chris was mentally defeated. And once he got knocked down, he just basically fell off of his bicycle, and he looked terrible. But I definitely salute to Hector Luis Garcia. He did what he had to do, and that was a good fight by him. But I don't think he's anything special. I think Hector Garcia has shown himself to be vulnerable. But I mean, what's probably going to happen is that he's going to face Roger Gutierrez, and that will be a good fight. I think he can definitely beat Roger Gutierrez, but if he could become the champion and face Shakur Stevenson for a unification, yeah, let's go and get it. But I mean, if him and Chris Colbert could run it back again, I'm down to see that. So, yeah, that's a good fight. Hey, salute to you, G5 Gabe. Thank you for coming by. Um, yeah, T said I don't mind Brandon Lee. The way he moves is as if he doesn't care about being a world title holder. I'm not fond of his fights. Yeah, I agree. I think Brandon Lee understands like what's going to happen to him if he steps up now versus doing it later. So I'm not so sure. I think Brandon Lee, he's more than capable to take on the challenges, but I think based off of his recent resume, he's been fighting a lot of C level, D level opposition. And I think if we want to see Gary Antoine Russell, against a good young gun, I think Brandon Lee would give him that fight. But obviously, I think Gary Antoine Russell will be levels above him, and he'll just come out of his way and actually knock him out. But the problem, with this fight is that both Gary Antoine and Brandon, they're both power punchers. And I think the problem with this fight is that Gary Antoine Russell, he'll do anything out of his arsenal to knock out Brandon Lee if everything goes down south, where he's getting, let's just say outboxed, or Gary Antoine Russell, he's just not having, a good night, and he's getting hit with these really mean, ugly shots. I think he needs to definitely be careful with Brandon because Brandon, he's a really dangerous puncher, man. Brandon is he is no joke. I'm obviously saying that like possibly being biased, but I just think based off of his style, when you look at how he fights, it may think like he's a big ass puncher, but no, he he's a very good, strong inside fighter, and I think what he's gonna do coming into a Gary Antoine Russell fight is that he's going to make sure that Gary Antoine Russell does not does not press on him. He's going to do the same thing what Gary Antoine's going to do, but he's going to be very careful coming in. But if he clips Gary Antoine and he sees that right opportunity, I guarantee you he's going to try to he's going to try to think that he actually hurt him and he's going to try to go in there and try to knock him out. But if Gary Antoine thinks very smart in that fight, he'll definitely knock out Brandon for sure because he is, the more, educated boxer. But it's like, when it comes to inside fighting, he needs to be careful because it's like you're facing another guy that can hit just as hard as you. So the magnitude of those punches every time you hit him or her, it's still going to play a massive factor in switching those angles to get hit and then you're moving and then this guy he also can also try to switch it up on you too, so it's like if he's going to switch up those punches whether it's going to be downstairs or upstairs, he's going to try to play that mental mind game with you to try to see where your mind's at, and then if he can clip you, then that's when Brandon's going to try to go in to try to knock out Gary Antoine because the only way he's going to win is to actually just try to knock him out. But Gary Antoine, all he needs to do is just outbox him. And then when he outboxes him, he can easily either try to knock him out or just stay on his P's and Q's and just wait for the knockout to come. But I just think Gary Antoine, he's too gifted, mentally and physically to allow Brandon to actually hurt him. But that will be a good 50-50 fight. I'll probably say 55-45. Gary Antoine's favor. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I had a lot of fun talking about this, but I just figured that I'd come on here, talk about what I have to say, and I'm happy that you came here, teach. I was gonna just, basically do this solo bolo, just say what I have to say because, usually people don't come through for the streams unless I have something interesting to say, but yeah, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you, G5. Appreciate you, Omega Red. So thank you guys for coming, man. I'll be coming back with more content. I'll be talking about more fights. I'll be talking about the whole debacle that happened between Terrence Crawford and Josh Taylor. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. I had a really great time chopping it up. Until next time, obviously we have the fight with Jose Ramirez and Jose Pedraza, Mexico versus Puerto Rico. Let's go. I can't wait for that. I'm excited. That's going to be a flame fight. And then I believe we have Chocolatito versus Julio Cesar Martinez. I think Martinez is probably going to stop him. But, I mean, if Chocolatito, if he has something that we haven't seen before, I think Chocolatito can definitely beat him. But that's going to be a good fight. Very good 50-50 matchup. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I always like talking with you, every time when you come through. So, all right. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys later. And salute to the mighty LDBC. Peace. And I'm out, you. Thank you.